welcome back to my channel. My name's Jade and I hope you're having the most wonderful day. So today I wanted to film a video on my eating disorders and my struggles with them. My plan at the moment is to do one video a week based on mental health, and eventually I would like to be doing one video a week on true crime as well. So that would be covering a case, any case that you guys might want to see or that I just find interesting that I could cover. So that's the plan at the moment. So to start with, my mental health based videos are going to be basically each of my diagnoses. I'm going to go through them one by one, probably each week. Hopefully someone will feel less alone through watching these videos. That's my main goals, my main passion in life is to help people, especially with mental health struggles. So I hope that that can do that for somebody. So I'm going to put a little trigger warning here, as we are going to be talking about eating disorders, so it's going to contain a lot of eating disorder related content. I'm going to be quite open in this video, I feel that's necessary. Of course I won't go into really specific details, but I will talk about it as openly as I can without triggering myself or putting myself in a bad headspace. So the first eating disorder I was diagnosed with was bulimia. I was diagnosed when I was about 18 or 19. I'm going to read out the symptoms now of what bulimia is. So the main sign and symptom of bulimia is, of course, overeating or binge eating and then purging by means of either making yourself sick, you might take laxatives, or you might exercise excessively. All of these things you're doing try and counteract everything you've just eaten because you think it's going to help and it's going to get rid of all the bad, all those calories. You think by doing that you're kind of making up for it and you're fixing the problem. So other signs and symptoms include fear of putting on weight, so difficulty accepting their body image. Maybe they become really insecure when they start saying, oh, I feel fat, I feel overweight. Quick side note, fat is not a bad word, it's not a bad thing to be. I might use that word in this video, but I definitely don't mean it to be like a bad thing. But as anybody with an eating disorder will know, it's quite hard to convince yourself of that when it's about you, like personally. I do apologise if anyone takes offence to that, but it's certainly not me saying that, fat people aren't beautiful. I am fat, I'm definitely not skinny. So another sign is just being very critical about your body weight and your shape and your size. Somebody might be saying, oh, this doesn't fit me right anymore, or I look big, I don't like how I look ugly. This can be a sign of somebody falling into the trap of an eating disorder. Mood changes are also very common with eating disorders like bulimia. Food controls your life, so if you have a bad day, that will control your mood. If you have a good day, if you've lost weight, for example, that will also control your mood. So an eating disorder has a lot of power over your mood. Thinking about food a lot is another symptom. Somebody might be talking about food a lot, thinking about food a lot. If they are, that's something that you could maybe point out and ask them if everything's okay. If food has become some kind of source of stress in their life, maybe they will open up to you, and if so, then you can try and get them the help they need. Feeling guilty and ashamed is another symptom, and this one I really struggle with. Even to this day, even if, I'm just going downstairs, I get a chocolate bar, come upstairs, if my mum sees me with this chocolate bar, I immediately feel guilty and I immediately feel like I've done something wrong. It's just a chocolate bar, like it doesn't matter, obviously, but in my head, it feels so shameful and I feel so guilty about even thinking about eating a chocolate bar, never mind being caught with it. Another sign or symptom is avoiding social activities that involve food. I do this for sure. I definitely don't always enjoy going out for food. It kind of stresses me out. Thinking about what I'm going to order, how much is in that food, calorie wise, fat content wise, sugar content wise, just anything to do with food, and having to order in front of a group of people or even just one person, like it's quite scary for me. Another sign or symptom is feeling like you have no control over what you're eating. So even though you do, rationally you do, you feel like you don't. An eating disorder can make you feel so out of control, which is kind of strange because usually it derives from a need for control. So maybe you went through something in your life that was traumatizing and you had no control in that situation. You can then, as you get older, use food as a way to cope, when really it doesn't actually help you feel that way, and in fact you probably feel the opposite. The diagnosis definitely wasn't a shock to me. I knew I had disordered eating, but I didn't know in what category I had at this point. And to be fair, my diagnosis at the time I didn't think was actually accurate. Something more along the lines of EDNOS or anorexia binge purge subtype, which I've heard a few people be diagnosed with, because it wasn't just binge eating and purging that I was struggling with, it was also heavily restricting my food, calorie counting, weighing myself every single day, all the symptoms of anorexia I also had alongside the binging and purging. For a week I would be, heavily restricting, counting my calories, and then for a few days I might binge purge. Other days I may eat practically nothing, but I'd still purge what I did eat. So atypical anorexia is basically just anorexia, but you don't fit the weight restrictions, so you may not be underweight and you may even be classed as overweight or obese, which to me makes absolutely no sense. And of course anorexia is not a weight disorder, it's an eating disorder, so it doesn't make sense to categorize it by having to be a certain weight when oftentimes by the time people are in that position it's far too late. It shouldn't be dependent on what weight you are, it should be dependent on the symptoms you're showing, how hard it is to deal with it from day to day, rather than basing it purely just on what weight you are. So a few signs and symptoms of anorexia are missing meals, eating very little or nothing at all, lying about what you've eaten when you've actually not had anything at all. So if you know someone's not eaten and they say they have, that might be a sign that they are restricting their food. Taking medicine to suppress hunger, so any kind of diet pills online is, there's a lot of them out there. They're very dangerous and it shouldn't be being promoted, but it's something that is unfortunately quite accessible. That needs to change. Exercising excessively plus taking laxatives, just like with bulimia, so anything you do to purge your body of those calories, of that food, that's a symptom as well of anorexia. An overwhelming fear of gaining weight. Now this one, I relate to all the symptoms that I've talked about today, to be fair, but this one is one that really gets to me. It's actually the reason why I can't take certain medications for my mental illnesses, such as quetiapine. I have taken that in the past, but it caused a lot of weight gain, which then in turn triggered my eating disorder. Even though it was helping my bipolar symptoms, I just couldn't handle the weight gain. Rituals around eating are also a symptom, so you may have to do it a certain way, in a certain place, around certain people, without anybody there at all. You may have a certain plate and a fork and knife that you have to eat with. Seeing a lot of weight loss as a positive thing is another sign, which to me is a difficult one because, weight loss is pretty much always seen as a good thing. I think in the media, diet culture, it's huge. They make so much money off of just the industry as a whole. So I find it hard to say that that's a symptom when losing weight is seen as a good thing, for most people. Believing you are fat when you're at a healthy weight or you're underweight. For me, I have been at quite a low weight, and I remember even though I knew I was that weight, when I looked in the mirror I didn't see somebody that weight. I saw someone 5-6 stone heavier than what I was seeing in the mirror. So, and not admitting your weight loss is serious. So a lot of people will, they'll play it off as nothing. They'll say, oh no, I'm fine, I've eaten, or I'm healthy, don't worry. These are all signs and symptoms as well, and you definitely should pay attention when you hear somebody around you talking about things like this and, you know, being overly conscious of their weight. Please try and reach out to them and just make sure that they are okay. There's a lot of physical signs and symptoms that come along with eating disorders as well. So bulimia and anorexia combined, you know, there's losing hair, having really dry skin. Skin conditions can come from eating disorders as well. A lot of bloating and constipation, abdominal pain, problems sleeping, poor circulation in hands and feet, reduced sex drive, periods for people who have periods. They might miss them, it might become really irregular, or you may stop having periods altogether. So all of these things put together are so dangerous, and anyone that's struggling with an eating disorder out there, I urge you to please reach out, try and get some help. If not, just speak to somebody who, you know, online, who also has similar issues to you. There's an amazing mental health community online, especially on Twitter. For me, that's where I have most of my support, and it's really an incredible thing to be able to reach out to people who understand because they've been there. So please try and find others that maybe have the same diagnosis as you or the same struggles as you, so you don't feel alone. But I hope this video helps you not feel as alone too. I'm not in treatment right now. I've had treatment in the past, but I didn't find it to be beneficial, so I ended up not going anymore. Hopefully in future I will be able to get back into treatment, but for me, I think that my eating disorder is probably one of the last things I'll deal with, just because it is so ingrained in my mind at this point. So it's very difficult to recover. And of course, there's such a high mortality rate with eating disorders as well, which is why they need more awareness and people need to talk about them more, because it's scary and people are dying. So we need to be taking it more seriously. I want to send so much love to anybody out there who is struggling. I'm here for you, and like I said, there's a huge community on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook that you can reach out to. If not, then you can always contact Beat, which is a charity that's basically funded for eating disorders, and getting information on how you can find help. I'll leave the link in the description below if you do want to check that out. So that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you next time. Bye.
Life was dull until you came. I was breathless when we first met.